All right. So here we are today and tonight with
Mhm.
Leisha. And what an absolute honor. I'm just so thrilled that you said yes and took time out of your microbial farming life to
Mhm.
be with me here tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Josiah. I'm glad to be here.
Wonderful. Your background is beautiful. Looks
Thank
like a
you.
wonderful warm night there. And so tonight we are going to listen to Lisha's story and kind of what you are up to. What I mentioned before we pushed record is that the past few days I've been listening to all the amazing stuff that's already out there and recorded. Some that just kind of talks about your story, where you are, and what you're trying to do, and where you're at now from the time that we heard the recordings to now. So, love to just kind of give you the floor to tell us what you're up to.
hmm Well, we're up to raising the project, which to me is very similar to the soil regeneration. We're raising the little good guys. Um, and we're bootstrapping. We're literally doing this day by day, working really hard. We're a team right now of 5.5 gringos, extra and heroes, and five local campesino, local Ecuadorians here. And we're really proud of that, that we're all working together on this mission. I'm also really proud that all the gringos, and we're international. From Israel, and we've got the South American, the Israel, the Canada, the US, the Ireland. We're international within ourselves. And I'm really proud of them because everybody's doing it from their heart. Nobody is taking compensation for the time and effort put in, because we can all really see the vision of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And of course, that comes with challenges. We love to lean into discomforts, and it comes with challenges because we come from a world where we deserve. And what about me? And yeah, it's just really special. I'm really proud of the crew because we're really trying to live what we feel the project is about, you know? I guess I
That's
should talk about the
great.
project,
Yeah,
right?
just like tell us exactly what that is.
Well, everything has been rolling without us having intention, actually, in the beginning. We got the site because a gas station was going to purchase it. And we were like, oh no, we can't have a gas station. So we took a risk. We purchased without the money. We had 3 months to come up with the money. We came up with a portion of it, and then we had an angel investor appear. So we do have to pay back a lot of it. And then we got the land, and we were like, okay, we have this dream of having a very holistic site, an education site where people can come and learn about the microbes, the soil, growing food, harvesting food, preserving food and medicines, learn about the plants, eat the food, maybe have a little spa or healing retreat, make essential oils. So it's very holistic. And our goal is to send people home after their experience with us, and they sort of bloom where they're planted. So they take everything they learn and they share it with their community. So everything we do is open source. We're trying to create a business that is very different from the top-down pyramid, where everybody wins. We're going to have an internal sort of community exchange system based upon time, not on money. And we're trying all these things on. We're learning as we go, and we're creating as we go. And it's really exciting. At this point, we have one really beautiful market garden growing where we're doing our U-pick for the local community, and it's going really well. We're at the end of rainy season here, and we don't grow food in dry season. And our gardens are amazing. And that's because of the microbes, it's because we've regenerated the soil. And this Saturday, we're doing a minga here in South America. If you don't know what it is, is where we welcome the community and as volunteers on a project to help us. So we've been trying to do at least one minga a week, and the minga this week is to actually plant the market garden on the project site.
Oh, wow.
So we're busy getting ready for that. We're putting the microbes in the soil. We're going to be teaching people how to do extracts and soak the seeds and why we're planting in certain areas and who's going where and which. And our goal is to have people return in 3 or 4 months who helped us with this day, and they can actually share in the harvest as well. We're putting in a greenhouse. And these are because little people have given us little bits of money, and we've decided we're going to put this money in this part of the project or this part of the project. So we were just given a gift, $5,000 just last week. So it's like, where's this money going? And we're now going to raise the greenhouse, which I think is going to be another teaching tool. Here we can't grow things like tomatoes and cucumbers outdoors because we have lots of white flies, and the temperament is not right. But in greenhouses we can. So, and perhaps an Amazonian medicine section in the greenhouse, tropical. We're semi-tropical, so maybe we can bring that in as well. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So I want to just highlight for a moment all the things that I've learned from looking at your website and listening to your videos is that your intention is really working like the soil food web, which I just thought was really just such a beautiful image and also just a beautiful reality of reflecting nature as it is. I mean, there's nothing more than a biomimicry kind of sense than to do it that way. And I thought it'd be nice to maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what that means and what it looks like, and also maybe how it's working for you.
Yeah, well, the original business plan, we looked at the microbes. Two of the members on the team, like yourself, are students of Dr. Lane. Actually, I just finished my consultancy a couple months ago. And when you look at the soil food web, you look at how all the microbes work together and everything's interconnected and linked. So if you took a part of that family away, everything would struggle. And we learned this when we were in kindergarten, but now it's got a lot deeper. So we looked at that and thought, well, what if we tried to create a business on that, which would mean that there wouldn't be a CEO, there wouldn't be a director. So we created pods. And at this point, we have 19 pods for all different aspects of Living Ground Project that could potentially have a person running that pod interdependently. So they would depend upon all the other pods. For example, compost is one pod. Consultancy is another pod. The commercial kitchen will be a pod. The cafe is a pod. The health and microbe tourism is a pod. Gardening, the market gardens are pods. We have 3 different types of pods that are revolving around gardens, which is regenerating people's soils, internal and external. Like one of our goals, when we start to make a profit as a project, as an association, 30% of our profits will go back to the locals to regenerate their lands, because they really can't afford our services. So we will offer them to regenerate their land, but encourage them to grow a plant that we want to purchase at the end. So there's everything's cyclical. I'm sure we're going to come into some challenges with this, because even when you look at the soil food web, people sacrifice for, or the microbes sacrifice for the others, for the greater good. And there is a symbiosis. And something that's really struck me lately, we tend to think symbiosis is all love and harmony and peace. And it's not. It's an awful lot of challenge and growth. And
well, it's an awful lot of death and shit, which is phenomenal. That's what I've been noticing, and just finding like the hilarity and just the reality in soil. It's healthy because death and shit and fucking.
Yeah. Party time. Exactly.
So, it's like you said, symbiosis doesn't mean all, happy and goodness. There is that whole
Yeah.
cycle,
Yeah.
right?
And sort of as the founder of this, I'm going to give you a little story about well, I came to Ecuador about 12 years ago. I came as a midlife crisis. My marriage broke down, and I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. I gave up everything. I came with 2 suitcases. Wasn't that easy, And I ended up asking. I found this beautiful valley near where I'm living now, and I said, "Can I put a tent and just camp?" Being Canadian, we love to camp. Can I just camp, and be by myself? And the camping turned into a full-time lifestyle. And I created basically glamping and an outdoor fort. I converted a fikey forest into gardens, and I started living off the land, and I fell in love with it. And volunteers started to come, people started to arrive, community was around me, which we can't live in community, by the way, we got to live in neighborhoods. We all have egos. And I met a man who I fell in love with here, Jim, and he fell in love with me, but there was no way he was going to come and live in the forest with me. He was just like, So in order to be with him, I kind of had to go back to civilized world with walls and fridges and stoves. And over a period of time, Nick's here, he'll come over in a second. I realized I didn't actually like living back in suburbia. And we had discussed this, and he said, okay, let's, and suburbia here is probably country to most people, but he said, let's sell and let's go and compromise. Let's go create a space together that's a bit more out for you, where you can have your gardens and your special spaces. And right after we built the house, he had passed away. Jim passed away from sepsis, bad guy microbes. Anyway, the Living Ground team has been gifted with 4 hectares, which is even further out. It's landlocked. And I realized that once this project is up and lifted, it's not mine. And I'll be handing it over to these guys, the team and the leaders that are involved. So I'm sort of standing in integrity that, this isn't about profit. This isn't about one person being successful. This is about everybody raising everybody up. And I'll go back to the forest because for me, it's a full circle, but it doesn't mean I'm leaving these guys. It means I'm giving them an opportunity to take something and make a difference and change the world. Anyway, this is Nick. He's another, I'll switch over here.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Hi, Nick. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
I'm a little sick, so pardon my stuffiness and little headache. Leisha's been taking good care of me, stuffing me with horseradish and good stuff. But
I've seen the apothecary. It seems like you're in good hands.
Yes, for sure.
Well, hope you get better soon.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Leisha, before we get in with Nick, I just wanted to ask you, Leisha, just to round out what you were saying, what kind of plant or tree do you feel like you are, or microbe, like within your microbial system, being this, like, doing this whole thing and gifting it?
The rhizosphere. Like I'm sort of there between the plant and the little guys, rising them up.
Yeah. She can't be at a single spot at one time. She has to be in multiple things. So.
I love that. And will you explain quickly what a rhizosphere is for folks that don't know yet?
Yeah, the rhizosphere is the 2 millimeters around the plant roots, where the plant releases sugar and proteins for basically to feed those microbes in order to exchange services with them. It's basically a bartering system.
Right.
It's a pretty serious barter. Like, plants will share up to 70% of their sugar with the microbes. So, it's got to be worth it.
Sorry about the dogs. Critical has to get into every video. He's our mascot.
That's great. Well, Nick, I was telling Leisha that the past few days I've been listening to everything I could get my hands on. So I've heard a bit of you speaking as well. But it'd be great now that you're here just to let us know just a little bit about what you're doing there. It sounds like you used to do commercial ag, or you were in ag, you were
Yeah.
in university for ag, and now you've moved over.
Yeah. So let's take it back. When I was 15, I found out about Paul Stamets. If you don't know who he is, he's the mushroom guy. If ever a mycologist has been famous, it's been this guy. And so I had a mushroom farm until my late 20s. And then in my early 20s, I studied conventional agriculture, farm management technologies at McGill University in Montreal, Canada, which makes me a Frenchie. And I was going to the permaculture class, and I stumbled upon one of Elaine's first student, whom I'm blanking on the name. But she's got her company is called Docteur, which is basically Doctor Earth. It's a French play on word. And she's great. And I found out about Elaine, went to a weekend workshop, got my mind blown, realized that everything I was learning didn't make sense. Even though I was taking that program on for the mushrooms, it didn't make sense. And then I started going down the courses. Eventually took the courses, and at one point I needed to make my piles for the Suelo Food Web course. And it was the winter in Canada. It was below 30, and I sent a message on the Skype forum, and hey, anybody in South America wants to have some help making compost? And she was like, hey, I'm in Ecuador. You can come on over. And I had my plane ticket, I was supposed to stay 3 months, and it's been, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it here.
Nice.
Luckily, when I had my business, I worked my butt off. So I can, and because this is Ecuador, I can live off my savings a little bit and contribute to the project, and try to make a difference.
This is actually what's been happening with this project, because when Nick arrived, I was already considering having a little tiny compost business, just making little hand piles and selling it, and just trying to share locally. And it was a very local thing. So when Nick arrived, I'm like, maybe we can make big piles. Mm-hmm. Then there was a foundation in the U.S. called Giving Back. No, what was there?
I think
Giving Back, yeah.
Oh no, that's
Frisia's. Yeah.
It was a foundation for food sovereignty.
Yeah, they had they were looking for land here, and it brought me in to go and look at some land they were purchasing because they wanted to buy a large tract of land for food sovereignty. And the director, is that what they're called? Peter said, hey, we need to use some money because of the way the IRS works, which I don't have no clue how it works, but we need to use some money fast. How would you like to have a Mighty Mike, which is our special compost turners? It's a very slow turner. You do need to have a tractor with a very slow speed. I spent 6 months researching this to get this equipment here, and Nick had already arrived. So we're like, we could actually do a big compost business with this. We couldn't get it in with COVID and with all the transportation issues.
Yeah. Here in Ecuador, if you don't know the right person, if you know the right person, it's going to be like this. If you don't, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, well, sometimes even if you know the right person, you still got to pay the money. And it was actually going to cost more than the machinery, which the machinery was $100,000. So we ended up having to give up this idea, but it had been planted. The seed had been planted. And we'd already started to work out how we would do this together. And so we got a site at the end of my road down here, which is now our first market garden. And we started teaching our local crew how to do hand piles. I do believe that we're the only Suelo Food Web students at this point mass producing hand piles.
Yeah, we figured something to make windrows, like in order to make long piles. And it's working pretty well.
It's working really well.
And interestingly enough, out of the 5 or 6 guy crew that built your house, there's 3 of them
that are doing this. Yeah.
2 of them are in the team. The other works part-time, and then the other guy's brother, and we're renting his other brother's land, and small community family stuff. It's great. They're all great people too.
Yeah, and they're really proud of us. Like sometimes there's friction and division between internationals and locals. And they're really happy. They're really glad we're doing what we're doing, and they're really happy to be on the team. So, I mean, this is
about that. Go ahead.
Sure. With this, all I'm trying to share is this is how this whole project has been developing, so like it was right after that we found out about the gas station possibly going around the corner. We really didn't intend to have this 1,000 square meter building, it has so much potential.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do a fundraiser to start with. That wasn't the plan. Like, we all ended up super anxious, and you'd be like, okay, we're going to do it. And like, And the thing with the guys is like, Leisha's got basic Spanish. I didn't speak Spanish when I got here. And so we had to, make it work. I speak broken Spanish now, but they've learned to understand me.
Yeah.
And they're learning English, which is, so we all speak Spanglish.
Yep.
Yes.
Spanglish.
Yes.
I actually speak Spang Turklish.
Very good.
Which is even more it's a fun one. Yeah. Well, okay, I have a few questions. I want to make sure you talk a little bit about the microbial tourism, because I just think that's such a great concept. Of course, I want to come and tour, and I want to come and work there. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think that people, especially in the soil food web, or other people that are trying to do woofing programs, or, are trying to find other experiences, might just be fascinated and blown away with a possibility like what you're offering. Now, am I correct that it will be open to some people who are interested? And
not some. It's actually now become the heart of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I am really trying to focus on writing right now, because we're creating manuals that are all based on self-sufficiency and self-reliance. So with my background as a naturopath and a homeopath herbalist, I have made a connection between the soil and people's health. So this is all being included, and people can pick and choose what they want to come and experience. So we're not going to be duplicating what the Soil Food Web does. What we're doing is giving people the hands-on experiential.
Right.
So there will be a manual that will give them a baseline. And then when they come on site, they'll actually be an apprenticeship, but we're going to do internships. But the same thing, like I'm writing right now on 45 herbs. I thought it was going to be about a 100-page manual. It's probably going to be about 800. And because of the microbes, because I was like, well, these are 45 plants that can grow anywhere in the world. I started with 10, but then they just kept developing, and it's food and it's medicine. And I asked the question, and you can't find the answers. They're not out there, but I asked the question, what microbe do they need in the soil? What microbe works with them? So then I started using my imagination with creation stories of these plants working with these different microbes. And then I discovered, when we take this medicine into our body, it helps our biome and certain colonies of bacteria. And so it went from just writing on the plant and teaching people to, but one of our gardens, we're calling the Secret Garden, and it's going to be home to the 45 plants. Yes. So people can come and experience that too with their manual. They can sit with the plant, they can eat the plant, they can learn with the plant, they can alchemize the plant. We're going to have a full apothecary there. And again, send people home with tools of how they can actually, can I say this, live outside of the system happily, like break free of that control.
Take control of their own health, right? A lot of the situation we have with the system is we just lean on it and we trust. And I think it's good to have a good amount of self-reliance when it comes to not being forced to trust, but being able to make your own choice.
Yeah. And our idea is to bring in individuals or couples that want to learn, but also families, so they can choose their holiday, and then we are starting to partner up with other people in this area that have retreat centers and spas and do different tours. So it could be a very well-rounded experience for people where they can actually go home with some information too. They'll know how to make a pile, a hand pile, or grow their own food, start a little garden,
grow their own microbes to help their gut. I
There
mean,
you
that's
go.
what I'm
Exactly.
hearing that you're doing is it's in complete alignment with my experience. I got sick. I had to reheal my gut with my amazing nutritionist who's all about the microbiomes. So everything I listen to you saying, I'm like, we all need to meet up.
Yes.
She'll see this recording and, but that's what I'm hearing. And there are so many people that actually go on tours for health. So it seems like you can come and learn how to grow your own microbes within the
Yeah.
soil and you get to eat it. I imagine that you'll probably even be able, I think you mentioned, do your live blood work with them if they
Oh
want it.
yeah. Yeah.
Even probably learn how to feed themselves in ways that are more like nutritionally well. So, and then they're coming home with, like we said, I heard you say a few times, your mission really is, it's not proprietary. You want to send people off so that they can keep doing it on their own.
Spread the good little guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys,
See,
And then we know the bad guys go away, right? That's what the soil
or at
science.
least they're in balance is my understanding. Like my
They're
understanding,
in place.
right.
Yeah.
Like they actually, which I thought was really interesting. And you tell me what you think, but from what I understand, we don't want to not have them. They have a place. We just want it in a balanced place so that it's like an aerobic, healthy environment. Is that
Exactly. Well, I mean, you can look at like H. pylori, right, which is a corkscrew bacterium. In most, 75% of humans carry it. Only 5% or say have any symptoms from it. Most are asymptomatic. But we know that it actually will block certain cancer genes. So it's good to have. However, 5% of people can get ulcers or stomach cancer. So it's keeping, and I believe we only know maybe 5% of this science. So it's like, for me, it's like, okay, we're just learning. We are just discovering, and I don't have the equipment. I'm not a chemist. I don't have big lab equipment. So we have to go on intuition and we have to go with diversity right now.
Yeah.
Like we have to, like, this is one of my things I say to everybody on team. I challenge everybody, have a salad that contains minimum 15, maybe 30 items in there, because of all those microbes, and stop washing your produce.
Well, it depends where they come from. I mean, there's some stuff you definitely want to be washing.
Well,
you mean when you grow it?
Exactly. Well, part of our project, like we're not going to wash our stuff. And if you do, then tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's also like a massive, if you look at the studies, a lot of the progress we've made in terms of growing more food, if you look at plant density, the nutrient density, it's basically like the plant just makes a choice. It's like, oh, you want less vitamins and less minerals and you want just more sugar? Great. Let's just produce that. And then you get to a point where you can't eat enough tomatoes. You need to eat too many tomatoes to be able to get your nutrition.
Well, I heard you say that too, which I thought was so interesting. You were saying something like these plants are full of air and water. Just because this plant has the color and a bigness about it, it doesn't mean that it has nutrients in it.
Yeah.
And that's something that, rightfully so. It's hard for us to know that if we weren't taught it, and especially we learn so much from what we see. You're like, well, it looks like the vegetable, and Google says this vegetable has these vitamins.
Yeah. We're actually designed to be able to tell nutrient density. And so generally the better tasting the vegetable, the more healthy it is. Because basically the plant fulfills nutritional levels. It'll survive, it'll resist attack. And then as it develops, it'll be able to produce aromatic compounds, flavonoids, carotenoids, and all that good, which is what makes us want it, because it's in the it's a plant that grew in the right spot in order to be able to be healthy.
That makes perfect sense. I lived in Turkey on and off for years, and their food was so good, and people thought, oh, you're just a Turkophile, and I'm like, no, I think there's something in their soil. There's that they grow a certain way, and they have a level of soil, that quality that we don't have in America.
How is the climate in Turkey? Is it relatively dry? Because
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, they have a lot of regions, but but what
the nutrient density is oppositely correlated with rainfall in general. Like the more
Okay.
rainfall, so there was a reason why the buffaloes ran north and south in the U.S. Like in the center, because that's where there's the least rainfall.
So this is Tamara and Ian. Hey.
Hi, welcome.
You guys want to lean into here? So
Yeah, I'm gonna get up.
Come on in.
Hello.
Hi. So this is Tamara and who?
Tamara and Ian.
Sorry, it's hard to process sound right now. The dogs are giving us all types of love.
Clara, come here.
No problem. We are yeah, we're just been talking about the project, what you guys are doing, and we were getting in the topic of just kind of nutrient dense food and the microbes in the soil. How has it been for you guys working on this project, and what brought you here?
I mean, for me, it's been absolutely amazing. I was born, I spent most of my life in a big city, and to pretty much be able to orient my entire life around health and healthy food and healthy practices, and it's just been like life-changing in many ways. So I've been able to heal, I've been able to learn so much. Having this team is so cool because a lot of times I feel like because I was born in a city and I didn't have much like guidance in living off the land, because I have like Leisha, who's like, my mind said master, I don't know if it's gassing her up, but like just yeah, she's has so much knowledge and wisdom, and we're really forming a strong bond and family almost, and yeah, there's just so many cool things going on. It's hard to really explain. Like what's today, Wednesday? In 2 days we're doing a U-Pick. I don't know if you talked about this.
It, yeah.
Cool. And then Saturday we're doing a Minga, and it's like community based. Here comes Clara. Yeah, I really can't I feel like I could write a whole book about how wonderful it's like. It's just been so helpful for me in so many ways, and I think this is like the life that my soul has called for. So to be living it and to like be in such a cool team is like unbelievable.
That's so wonderful. Can I ask where you were raised in the city?
Yeah, so Philadelphia.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And how did you get to Leisha?
Ooh, that's the whole thing.
Maybe Tamara shares that side.
I've been trying to make a paragraph, concise version.
Elevator pitches are hard.
It involves a lot of synchronicity. I had been praying and visualizing a garden in the valley of mountains before we came to Ecuador, before really even settling. Clara, if you look there, then we can both be
Sit, Clara. She's just full of love.
Actually, if she speaks for me, I had that intention for a few years before ending up here, and the way in which we connected with Leisha was also kind of a part of that. We have a mutual friend, and I mentioned to the mutual friend here in Ecuador that I'm interested in soil because I had been, bit by the spore of mushrooms and also plants, and I started falling in love deeply with trees, and then it hit me that I knew nothing about soil. So I mentioned to a mutual friend, hey, it'd be cool to learn about soil. Just putting it out. And shockingly enough, this mutual friend was like, oh, that's weird. I know someone who's working on a soil project. Within a few days, we met Leisha, and we were actually present at the first pile that Leisha ever created with the Soil Food Web knowledge.
For my course.
Yeah.
It was my pile 1.
Somehow we were there.
Wow.
That was like 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and I really like to just, bring it back to that reflection of work. You're really creating this thing as the Soil Food Web, and it's just kind of like the mycelium. It's so phenomenal how often we can kind of think of something, want something, and then how just our networks, grow and kind of grab, and then there you are. So I love to see it that way.
I totally feel led by spores. Like a lot of my movement in the world has been influenced by mold.
Yeah, interesting.
Which is interesting, and I'm grateful for mold. It's also the hardship, but it's like this. It's like led me here, honestly.
We were just talking about the symbiosis, the good and the bad.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I like that, you know, it is good when we can see, like, we think of mold like, oh, it's bad, we want to get rid of it, but then it moves you, like you said, and sometimes moves you to where you may not have gone if you were comfortable and there was no mold.
It definitely moved me out of Philly. Sorry, Philly.
Yeah.
Philly,
Wow. Wow, cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there anything in particular that you haven't, that's like new and developing for you all, as far as I was mentioning, Alicia, that I listened to just about everything I could find that you guys are talking about, so I've heard kind of what you said. So since then, are there new developments or new realizations or things that you'd like to kind of share with
Yeah, I would like, because I'd like to share a story, because we haven't gone public with this story yet, and it might be a segue to podcasts that Ian was gifted in doing. This is a man who came to visit me in the forest many years ago. He was living in the what mountain range?
It's like the coastal mountain range
in Canada, off grid. He hunted his own food. I mean, he was completely off grid. So when he came to the forest, he would, for me, was just like, wow, full of knowledge and information. And I felt like I was sitting at his feet, just like, wow. And I kept in contact with him. He did return a couple of times over the years, and he spent Christmas with us the one year. And he was very ill, and he contacted me about 4 or 5 months ago, and had very ill, was dying, and had decided to get into the Canadian Healthcare Assisted Suicide Program. So of course you're like, like, come here, we can help you. And he's just like, no, Leisha, he didn't have a lot of money, but he had enough, a little bit. He's like, I can't think of a better project to give this to. So I asked if he would like to do a podcast with Ian and share his life and who he was and what he was about. And Ian was gracious and did it. And I think it was an amazing experience for you.
Yeah, I still can't put it into words. Like it went from like I never had met this person. I didn't know who he was. And then one day we're driving to the market and Leisha tells me the story. And I'm like, whoa, like that's kind of crazy. One, living off grid for 21 years in like the mountains. I'm like, and second, assisted suicide. Like I said, I still can't wrap my head around that. So I was like, Leisha, like you should do a podcast with him. And she was like, you know what? Like, do you want to do it? And I was like,
he does podcasts.
I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, hell.
And yeah, we ended up like, so pretty much over the next, really it was almost a month. We became really good friends. And like, we just had these recorded conversations of him talking about his life, like what made him want to live off grid, starting the journey, and what he came up with. It's like just hearing his whole story. And then all of a sudden, like, I went from not knowing him to like now deeply connected. Yeah, exactly. So it's like kind of bizarre. And then it's like, yeah. So faded.
So he did manage to send us. He started with just little chunks, a little $500 Canadian and $1,000. And over the period of time leading up to the day that he left us, he gifted us with $11,000 Canadian. Wow. And we have chosen to put this money into our commercial kitchen. Wow. And he's asked us to dedicate our seeds. We are collecting seeds. It's illegal here in Ecuador to do so, but we are. So he's asked us to dedicate our seeds to him. His nickname was Woody, and he did a lot of wood carvings, and I do a lot of concrete statues. So I do intend on doing a bear, maybe a moose, because we did get to ask him, how will we know you're here after you're gone? And he said a moose. We're like, we're in Ecuador. There's no mooses here. Maybe I'll see if I can create a moose. We'll see. But we're deeply grateful for Jay, and the experience.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, it sounds like his name will be a blessing, and his memory will be a blessing.
Exactly.
All of that. Well, I'd love to, Ian, if you'd like to share your podcast, we could put that in the notes if you'd like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, in the future, because like literally, I think I have like 8 hours talking with him, and like there's a lot going on. So
yeah, just whenever you want, I'd love to.
keep this in there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so interesting that you mentioned the assisted suicide, because I'm also certified death doula, and I, do some end of life.
Wow.
Yeah, end of life Washington volunteering, and it's it's an incredible aspect, and like I said, I really relate with just seeing our lives and our world as the soil, and every time I learn more within the soil and the cycle, I just see the reflection in the life,
Yeah.
and so I experience that aspect too, watching just the acceptance or the fight or the suffering, like just the whole experience is just so cyclical, and we always just go back to the soil. And as far as the gut health too, it's like we get our nurturance from it and then we go back to it. So I feel like there's just this incredible
cycle going round and round.
Incredible cycle. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, let's see, I had another question. Oh, Nick, I was talking about doing the mushrooms, and I had heard on one of the talks about the spot that you're in. Are you guys planning to do remediation in that area?
I'd love to. Once I finish the Soul Food Web stuff, my next thing is going to be minerals and mushrooms.
That sounds great. Well, this has been so fascinating. I'm really happy to meet you all, and thank you for giving me your time. I know that being farmers and living on the land takes a lot of work.
We hope you come and visit one day.
Yeah, looking forward to meeting you.
Yeah, I got to find a way. I think there's definitely a way. Yeah. And some of the folks in the Soil Food Web, like WhatsApp group that we have, are excited to kind of learn more about what you guys are doing too. And I know there's a lot of people internationally that are looking for places to learn. So definitely will pass on their website. That's how people get in touch with you, right? Just through your website?
Yep.
Yeah. And are you taking on people now, or are you needing to get to a certain place before that happens?
Well,
we're getting close enough.
We do on site here. This is sort of homeland. This is the Soul Squad team's land. We do have one of our buildings we've set aside for the microbe and health tourism, because we're welcoming people to kind of learn the bugs, figure it out for ourselves. How are we going to do this? And so people can actually come to the Airbnb here on site or contact us, and we can set programs up. And people like we did have a lady who came who was very interested in a project. She stayed for a month and is arriving. She's arriving back October the 11th. She went home and said, nah, she gave up everything and she's coming to live here October the 11th. I mean, we can't make some of these stories up, honestly. And we're working on right now, which will eventually become our family area. So it's 3 bedrooms, a kitchenette, dining room, 2 bathrooms at the project site. We're going to use it as like probably a volunteer quarters for now, or anybody who is interested coming. So we have a spot. And as the funds are made, because we're starting to get some really cool consult jobs and we're starting to move the microbes around Ecuador. So as the money is made or donations are given, we will then start working on dormitory rooms and high-end rooms where people can stay for the health, or if they just want a vacation,
or work, being able to work online. The cost of living in Ecuador is very low. So you could be housed and fed for less than what most people will pay in rent, and be super comfortable. And then you can work online while you're, recovering from a surgery, just eating really good food, breathing air that's not from, some city center. There's a lot of benefits.
And learning.
Yeah.
And learning.
That sounds so great. So I have a few more questions now, and I'm sure I could go on and on, but I want to ask you about like this restaurant, the cafe that you're talking about, are you the one that cooks the food? Is it your recipes, or do you have someone?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I am a cook. So, and I am a chef. I'm a raw food chef, although I don't eat raw food except for my salads. Uh, this, I mean, I'm really hoping somebody will step up, and I'm thinking Jiminy will. He's not with us. He's our little Irish gnome. He's sort of expressed an interest in this. But we just want to offer. I mean, I was connected with the Cafe Gratitude community many years ago, Matthew and Tersa's Engelhart. And of course, their children are now what their very popular movement of the soil, Kiss the Ground.
Kiss the Ground.
Kiss the Ground. You know, but I mean, I was involved with them years ago, so it's really weird. And I've sort of fashioned a lot of their community teachings on what we're doing here. And I loved their Cafe Gratitude. You know, they had a commercial kitchen. That's what we're doing. And they fed their restaurants, but it wasn't so much about the food. They were masquerading. The restaurant was masquerading their community work.
Oh, I lived in San Anselmo where they had their big
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's that connection there. My goal is to teach everything I know and pass it on.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of healing with food. So I use a lot of herbs and other things, but there's so much we've lost about soups and alchemizing ferments. And I mean, Tamar's learning a lot, and she's doing a lot, and she's apprenticing with the live blood. But our apothecary, we're hoping, is going to be full-blown ferments, from fire ciders to fermenting all of our root crop. Having it so here people don't preserve foods because we can grow food all year round.
Right.
You know, we have the climate. So we bring in this northern wisdom that we have because we had 3 months to grow food and save it.
Right.
You know, but if we can save microbe grown foods, and what if we could actually add the compost to this?
Right. I heard you talking about that. Well, and it reminded me of the humic acid that Elaine was talking about. And she said, not everyone drinks it. She goes, I'm drinking the compost tea. I heard your idea about compost tea.
Yeah. Yeah. We're coming up with a bunch of, I mean, I drink it.
Yeah.
Especially made though.
Especially made. I mean, you have to have your microscope. You got to know what's in there. You can't just drink from any compost, but you know.
Yeah. No, it's so great. Well, it'd be so fun at some point to do another one about like gut and food, because that's really, I'm apprenticing with my naturopath nutritionist. She's a microbiome rejuvenist, cyclical wisdom guide, and she saved my life. Yeah, and you know, it's been incredible. You know, now I'm learning to eat with the cycles, and she has a 5+5 I Live Vibrantly way of food combining, so it's good for your gut. That came from Dr. Stu Wheelwright, if you happen to know him. He's a really well-known, loved practitioner, and I've just been learning so much about food and the healing aspects, and it's just mind-blowing and so obvious. It's the ancient traditions, you know, like rejuvenated kind of into modern day. Okay, I wanted to ask one other question and to kind of like wrap it up, but I wanted to just touch on the locals that you're working with and the locals that are interested in what you're doing. I thought that would just be really nice to hear more about that. And I'll just preface it by saying I've worked on a lot of farms, worked with a lot of South Americans, but primarily folks from Mexico. And I worked on mainly organic farms, and the majority of them kind of poo-pooed organic. They thought it was a silly white American thing. And even a lot of them were farmers in their old towns where they were, you know, I can't think of the word, but, you know, Monsanto came and sold them, you know, the Kool-Aid and the whole thing. And so my experience has been sort of just a lot of them kind of poo-pooing these new ideas. Again, that's in America, but I was just so curious, like, what's your experience? And I'm sure a lot of it just has to do with they see the results. I'm assuming.
Yeah, Monsanto is very much in Ecuador and has been for a couple of generations.
Yeah.
So the grandfathers and the fathers, the elders right now are really noticing that, hey, the corn is not growing anymore and it's a lot smaller and they're losing their heritage seeds. They know something's going, but they're very gentle, passive in nature. And maybe that's why this is the eagle and the condor coming together, because we're like, hey, yeah, we know, we agree, and here's a solution. I don't think they've had too many solutions offered, but they know something is wrong. Nick and I, well, mainly Nick, had, because of his Spanish is better than mine, we had an opportunity to speak to 25 farmers in a local community, and they got it. They were like, yeah. And the way we presented it was basically, these guys aren't your friends. They're going to help kill the soil and kill your food and make you sick and make the soil sick. And then you're going to need them because you have to buy their products over and over and over again.
Yeah. And
their eyes lit up. I mean, it wasn't lit up like they were like, yes, we get it. The 3 young men that we're working with on the project site, our aim is that they are going to be teachers. So we're teaching, Nick is even teaching them how to use the microscope piece, how to actually do our soil tests, right from making the compost to the soil tests. And we're hoping that we're going to raise them to be consultants with their people. So they're going to be the voice to their own people, because we are gringos.
Yeah. And there's a lot of misinformation. Like, I was chatting with one of the guys and he's like, yuca's organic. When we sprayed Roundup, we didn't spray the yucca, we sprayed the roots, the weeds. But yuca's a root crop. So it's basically like just, and in their head, it's like, well, I didn't spray the tree, so the tree's organic. Like, I'm talking to another coffee grower. He's like, yeah, I'm fully organic. And then I go in the shed and there's ammonium nitrate. And I'm like, ammonium nitrate, fungal issue you had, that why you call me? It's like, that's might have something to do, right? It's very tricky. And the thing is that we don't have all the answers. We just know that certain path is like, it's a dead end.
Right.
COVID changed a lot though, because before this became more of a town, a barrio, it was the campesinos here.
Sorry, my migraine's just killing me. Thank you very much for doing this. I'm going to go to bed.
Take good care. Yes, get healthy.
Really cool what you're doing. And
thank you.
Tell everybody that what's going on here.
Absolutely.
During COVID, because food wasn't able to be brought in because of the transportation and everything was locked down, there was a program set up here to put up red flags. So if your house had no food, put up a red flag, and neighbors and community would try to get the food to them.
Wow.
And there was an awful lot of locals who had red flags. And I think a lot of people went, hang on, what is happening here? I mean, these are the farmers, and yeah, I just think that was a big wake-up call. We actually can grow in our community 100% of our own food. We probably grow between 20 and 30%. So yeah. This is another thing that we're focusing on, is food sovereignty. So now we're doing the U-Pick and we're having locals and gringos coming, we're hoping that they're seeing and they're feeling and they're tasting and they're assimilating this amazing food and going, okay, let's start focusing. Food sovereignty is really big right now.
Yeah, I love that. And, also it's like, there is the old adage that, you get to what do they say? You get to a man's head through their stomach.
Yes.
But I do think that, and always the proof is in the pudding, right? And so often, it seems like they can see, they see what's going on, and you're showing this solution. And it seems like, I imagine that they can see your giving nature, which is so important, I think, no matter where we are, and especially when we're in, we're a foreigner on, in a land. I really respect that and acknowledge it. And I just think it's, they're lucky. They're lucky to have you around as a rhizome.
I do want to add that the indigenous, so there's local and there's the indigenous,
Right.
they understand this fundamentally. It's a part of their philosophy, right? Right, because they're so much more connected to their roots, quite literally, their soil and their practices, and they've also seen the changes throughout a larger span of time, right? And it's in their culture to also doubt the authorities, the institutions that came in and did all kinds of bad things. So they get it right away. And I see us collaborating with them more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy that you made that distinction. Thank you. When I was saying locals, I was thinking indigenous, and then actually there are differences there.
Nuances.
Yeah.
Yeah, nuances. That's so great. And that reminds me of when we were in Dee Dee Peterson's soil sponge, the soil sponge program. There was a few people from New Zealand, a couple Maori women, and they were talking about their tradition, and they said that traditionally one of their stories is that earth soil is her gut. And I just thought that was just too cool.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, so often it's already been known. It's just already been known. So we're circling around in a way that that really just honors what's already been known, and then also have the opportunity to show it in the scientific way to kind of really bridge that, But around the world, they're like that. We've been knowing that. So that's so great. Well, any last things? I've definitely will put the links to your website and anything else, for people to be able to take a look and get to know you. And do you guys have like a mailing list or anything like that? Where people
they can subscribe on the website.
Great.
And Tamar has done a press kit for us, which is awesome. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and Leisha sends out very, let's just call it well-timed, right? It's not overwhelming like emails. Some people are like, I'm going to email you twice a week or something. This is like really well spaced, once a month email with.
I'm always late.
She's always late, so you get him a little less. But they're always full of wisdom and interesting things that Leisha's been contemplating. So that they're fascinating.
And also what's going on with the project, where we're at, what level. And I mean, we really, all of us here, I mean, we're learning as we go. I mean, we do have some knowledge, but we're students as well. And we're learning from each other. And I don't, I'll share one last thing, because we feel that we're supposed to do this from nothing. We feel that we're supposed to lift this to prove that the little guys can do it. Because if we had a ton of money, it would be really easy. But we'd actually be providing for people who had a lot of money. And we're not like, we're here for the little guys too, We're lifting this project. So yeah, we're just a bunch of little guy microbes just doing our best. And
I love that. And so like, just as when you are sending out like, the sugars for the taxi cab drivers come back and bring you what you need. What is that? What are those requests? Like, what do you want to put out there? So I do think that the Soil Food Web folks are listening, and other people who are interested in agriculture, more than organic, microbes, and, really, honestly, saving the earth.
Yes, and self-sufficiency, empowerment, like taking back what is already ours, but we've lost the wisdom. So let's bring the wisdom back, and that's only going to come through experience and practice. And yeah.
I'll add that I've been obsessing over the fact that nature's constantly spraying us with like reproductive stuff, like seeds and spores and whatever. Like it's everything's spraying. It's like love juice. But lately I've been thinking it's more like communication. it's just everything is communication. It's always communicated. The frogs here are just like communicating nonstop. And I just think that's also what we're about, right? Like communication, collaboration. When we voice an idea, no matter how controversial, I feel like it lights other people's the people that it lights up. It lights them up and it makes their life and their intuition grow. And we want to light more people up.
That's so great. And I would say what is said and through the experiences, one of the biggest aspects of communication is listening, right? So when we tune in to listen to the frogs, listen to the soil, right? Really listening to what's going on. That I think that really strengthens the communication that's happening, because there's stuff to be heard if we choose to listen, right? So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I'm gonna wrap it up today and end the recording, but stay on for just a second, you guys. And for everyone that is listening later, definitely follow these folks, Living Ground or Suelo Vivo.
Suelo Vivo, yeah.
Yeah, and to answer your earlier question, we also have YouTube, we have an Instagram, we have a Telegram, we got a website, we got a newsletter. So subscribe, follow us.
Yes,
we're creating on all levels. So
awesome. Yeah, and we'll put all of that in the notes, and I will also be sharing individually, and anyone else who is interested in this stuff, like, just share it individually, because I really do believe that you are one of the healing roads. I feel like most people are a healing road in one way or another, whether they're showcasing it, know it, or have developed it. But you've got some great ruts in the road. You have the signpost, you have the place to show, and the education center, and your network. And so you're rooted and you're growing and open to educate. And so I just think it's so great.
And we're open to people coming, or because we are bootstrapping. If somebody wants to support this, they could have a credit to a future visit, or
someone could even buy it as a gift to someone, couldn't they?
Exactly.
We do barter. We enjoy the barter.
Yeah, we do like the exchange program.
yeah, definitely. Me too. Okay, well, great. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Down for 1 second. We'll say goodbye to everyone at the moment. Ciao.
You're a great listener, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, thank you.
This was fun.
Good. Right on.
Have a good night.
You too.